You are sitting in a conference room on the 43rd floor of a building you have worked in for 6 years, when a man you have never met slides a folder across the table and tells you that your company has been stealing from his for the better part of a decade. You are not a spy. You are a senior product manager with a mortgage and a performance review coming up in March. You have no training in anything resembling what this man is describing. What you have is access. That, he explains, is exactly the point. Level 1. The approach. The man's name is Hargrove. He works for a firm called Meridian, which is a competitor of your employer in the enterprise software space. He found you through a mutual contact at a conference in Chicago 14 months ago. He has been watching you since. Not in a way that should alarm you, he says, though it does. In a way that suggests he has done this before. The pitch is clean. Meridian believes your company, Vantex, has been stealing proprietary source code and feeding it into their own development pipeline. They have circumstantial evidence, but not enough to win in court. What they need is documentation. Internal communications, access logs, the kind of material that only exists on the other side of a login that you happen to have. He is not asking you to hack anything. He is not asking you to install malware or carry anything out in a briefcase. He is asking you to look at things you are already authorized to look at and tell him what you see. He frames this as whistleblowing. He uses that word 3 times in the first 10 minutes. The compensation is $250,000, paid in installments through a consulting arrangement with a shell company registered in Delaware. Structured carefully, deniable if it comes to that. You tell him you need time to think. He says, of course. He slides a card across the table next to the folder and tells you he will be in town through Thursday. The card has a phone number and nothing else. You think about it for 11 days. You think about the mortgage and the performance review and the 6 years you have spent building something at Vantex that is real and yours and matters. You think about the consulting fees and what they would do to the next 5 years of your life. You think about the word whistleblowing and whether it applies to what Hargrove is describing, or whether it is just a word he chose because it sounds better than the alternative. On the 11th day, you call the number. Level 2, the access. The first few months are almost boring. Hargrove sends requests through a secure messaging app that deletes conversations after 24 hours. The requests are specific. A particular project codename. An internal roadmap document dated Q3. Email threads involving a specific engineering lead. Nothing that requires you to go anywhere you are not supposed to be. Nothing that would trigger an alert if someone was watching your activity, which you now assume someone always is. You become careful in ways you were never careful before. You stop using the office Wi-Fi for personal browsing. You learn what your company's data loss prevention software flags and what it does not. You read about insider threat programs and realize your company almost certainly has one, and that it is looking for patterns exactly like the ones you are creating, which means you have to be patternless. Random, occasional. You space the requests out. You vary the times. You make sure your legitimate work output stays high enough that nobody has reason to look at you closely. You get good at this faster than you expected. That unsettles you more than the work itself. Marcus sits 3 offices down from you. He has been at Vantex for 9 years, longer than anyone else on your floor. He runs the security compliance team, which is either the worst possible coincidence or something you should have considered before agreeing to any of this. He is methodical and quiet and occasionally brings homemade food to leave in the break room without telling anyone it was him. You have eaten his food without knowing it was his food for 3 years. You start paying attention to him in a way you never did before. When he walks past your office, when he is in meetings, you are also in. Whether he looks at you differently than he used to. He doesn't. He looks at you the way he has always looked at you, which is friendly and distracted and entirely unremarkable. That almost makes it worse. You receive the first payment in month 3, 2 installments of $40,000, routed through the Delaware entity as consulting fees for market research services you did not perform. You file them correctly with your accountant, who asks no questions, which either means the structure is clean or means your accountant is not looking closely enough, and you are not sure which answer you prefer. Level 3. The escalation. Hargrove's requests change in month 7. He is no longer asking for documents you happen to have access to. He is asking for documents that require you to use credentials belonging to someone else. An engineering director who has broader system access than you do. A senior architect whose login would get Hargrove inside a part of the codebase he cannot otherwise reach. He explains how to do it without triggering a lockout. He has clearly done this before. He explains it the way someone explains parallel parking. You push back. The conversation is short and unpleasant. Hargrove does not threaten you directly. He simply notes that the consulting arrangement is documented, that your name is on the invoices, that if the arrangement were ever scrutinized, the most charitable interpretation would be corporate espionage, and the least charitable interpretation would involve federal charges. He says this calmly, the way you might note that rain is in the forecast. You use the credentials. You do it once, carefully, at 11:15 on a Tuesday night when building access logs show 3 other people still in the office. You get what he needs, you close the session, you sit in your car in the parking garage for 40 minutes before you feel capable of driving home. The payment that follows is $60,000. By month 10, you have received $430,000. You have also crossed, somewhere in the middle of all of it, a line you cannot identify precisely but can feel the distance from. The person who sat in that conference room and needed 11 days to decide would not recognize the decisions you are making now. You are not sure when the shift happened. You are certain that it did. You start having a recurring thought at night, in the window between lying down and falling asleep, that you would like to tell someone. Not confess, just tell. The weight of a thing carried alone is different from the weight of a thing shared, and you have been carrying this alone for 10 months, and it is heavier than the money is light. You do not tell anyone. Level 4, the unraveling. The email comes on a Monday morning with no subject line. It is from an internal address you do not recognize, which means it came from inside Vantex's system. The body of the email contains a single sentence. I know what you've been doing. Nothing else, no demands, no follow-up. You spend the next 72 hours in a state that is not quite panic and not quite calm. You go through every interaction you have had in the past 10 months and try to identify where the exposure might be. The credentials incident is the most obvious candidate, the most dangerous. If someone logged the session, if the timing looked wrong, if the access pattern flagged something in a monitoring tool, Marcus's team would have been the ones to see it. You watch Marcus. He continues to bring food to the break room. He continues to nod at you in the hallway. He gives a presentation to the security team on Thursday afternoon about updated phishing protocols, and you sit in the back and watch him and try to read something in the way he moves that will tell you what he knows. On Friday, he asks if you want to grab coffee. You say yes because saying no would be more conspicuous than saying yes. You sit in the coffee shop on the ground floor, and he talks about a hiking trip he is planning in September and asks about your weekend, and at no point says anything that suggests he knows anything. You drink your coffee and answer his questions and smile at the appropriate moments, and feel for the first time in 10 months genuinely frightened. Not of being caught, of the version of yourself that has learned to sit across from Marcus and smile. You contact Hargrove that evening. You tell him you need to stop. He tells you the arrangement concludes when he decides it concludes. You tell him you think someone at Vantex is aware of your activity. He is quiet for a moment. Then he tells you to continue as normal and not to do anything that would indicate awareness of a problem. You do not sleep that night or the 3 nights after it. Level 5, the reckoning. The HR meeting is scheduled for a Wednesday at 9 in the morning. No agenda. Just your name, the HR director, and someone from legal you have never met. You know what it is before you walk in. You have known since the Friday coffee with Marcus, probably. You have spent the intervening week quietly moving money and deleting things that cannot be fully deleted and preparing a version of events that is technically true in its individual components and collectively misleading, which is the only version you have. The meeting lasts 3 hours. The someone from legal turns out to be 2 people from legal. They have the credentials incident. They have access logs going back 8 months. They have enough of the communication pattern to understand the shape of what happened even if they cannot see all of it. They do not have Hargrove's name yet. They will. You are placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Your badge is deactivated before you reach the elevator. Security walks you to your car, not unkindly, the way you might walk someone to their car if you felt sorry for the situation, while still being required to see it through. Marcus is standing near the entrance when you pass through the lobby. You do not know if he is there by coincidence or because he wanted to be. He looks at you, and for a moment you think he is going to say something, and then he doesn't. He just watches you walk out through the glass doors into the morning. His expression is not angry, it is not satisfied, it is the expression of someone who did his job and understands exactly what that cost both of you, and who made the choice anyway because it was the right one, and who will go back upstairs in a few minutes and continue doing his job in a building where you no longer work. You sit in your car in the parking garage, the same parking garage where you sat 11 months ago after the credentials incident, and you think about the 43 floors above you and the 6 years you spent building something inside them, and the folder that slid across a conference table, and the 11 days it took you to decide. Hargrove does not answer when you call. The Delaware entity dissolves before the end of the month. The federal investigation opens 6 weeks later. Your name is the first one on the filing. $430,000. That was the number. You have been trying to work out, in the week since the Wednesday meeting, whether you would make the same decision again with the same information you had then, whether the 11 days were long enough, whether the answer was ever going to be anything other than what it was. You don't have a clean answer, and you're not sure there is one.